Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I wanted to begin with a few ayat. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين. This is an ayah that comes before some of the ayat of Hajj in Surah Al-Baqarah. وقال الله تعالى وتزودوا فإن خير الزاد التقوى. That's another verse in relation to Hajj. وقال تعالى ومن يعظم شعائر الله فإنها من تقوى القلوب. This is in Surah Al-Hajj. And another verse in Surah Al-Hajj. الذين إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم والصابرين على ما أصابهم. I won't give the full translation of these verses, but these are verses that really speak to me at this stage in the journey, as everybody is kind of really focused on what can I say, logistical aspects of preparation and trying to get their steps in and shopping lists and things like that. I think it's very important at this stage to not lose sight of what is really important about Hajj. And for those of you who could hear me properly, or maybe are familiar with Arabic or more comfortable with the Arabic, you might have caught that two of those verses are about sabr and two of them mention taqwa. I know we like to laugh about Sheikh, having that rant on Iman channel when the man said if he were to sum up Hajj in one word, it would be sabr. And Sheikh went on a whole tirade about that. But it is true in a sense. And what Sheikh said is also true, that a lot of Hajj groups kind of take advantage, or they provide a poor service and then they tell people to be patient. But that's not what the focus is when we talk about sabr in the context of Hajj. In this context, it is more about preparing yourself to have patience and to focus before you're there, while you're there, and even afterwards. So that's kind of something that I wanted to touch on. Sheikh and Dr. Abid, Jazahumullah khaira, they went into a lot of detail, like I said in my message when I posted the announcement for the webinar. They did go into a lot of detail, and I linked all the videos that the webinars that they've delivered about menstruation and women's specific issues when it comes to preparing for Hajj, making sure you have the correct medication and all sorts of provisions that you might need. But there are other issues that are specific to women that we will be touching on today, myself and the other female guides. And those are things like, clothing, what to pack, laundry, taking care of your body and making sure that it's able to carry you through the more challenging times in Hajj, having patience. And these are things that I think are relevant to both men and women, obviously. But women have it different, obviously, in that when it comes to clothing and ihram, the rulings are different. Women usually have questions about niqab, or can I wear a face mask? Or we, as a team, specifically recommend that women wear compression socks because we see how the conditions over there affect women differently than they do men. Obviously, physiologically, we're different. And so that means we're going to have to pack differently. We're going to have to take different things into consideration. Some of the women are pregnant. They have concerns about pregnancy. Things like, if you have your feminine hygiene products. I've noticed in a lot of masajid and in Saudi while you're there, a lot of the bathrooms don't have proper disposal, methods, or there's sometimes not a bin because they expect everybody's just going to wash themselves. So these are things that we kind of have to think about on top of everything else. I saw a lot of women last year struggling with dehydration, heat stroke, fatigue, etc. In my opinion, more so than the men, from what I've seen. Maybe that's an incorrect assessment, but I think generally speaking, us women, we have a lot more going on in our bodies than the men do, and so we take a harder hit, I think, when the temperatures are high and when things are difficult. So we do need to prepare differently. Then there's the emotional aspect sometimes. Like in my experience, women, when they go there and they see, that there's a library in Masjid al-Haram, and they get all excited, and then they're told it's men only, and you're like, or you can't visit the graveyard. Or Sheikh touched on this a little bit, when you're not expecting for your cycle to begin, but it does, and you have to sit out on a lot of different activities and acts of worship. Emotionally, that hits you in a way that you might think you're prepared for, but when you're actually there, it's really very difficult. And I've had so many women, I've lost count, who come to me, crying and so stressed out about that. Or you have some women who come with us, and when they go back home, they're criticized and judged because they went with a group and they didn't have one of their mahrams with them. And they have to receive comments from people like saying things like your hajj is not accepted. So like I said, there's a whole slew of other things that are specific to women that make it important, especially important for us women, I think, to prepare mentally and to have that patience and that mental fortitude to get through the hajj properly and to not let these things get to us, and to be best prepared for them. And if anybody needs any proof that that it is different for women, we can take the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, when Aisha radhiallahu anha reported, she asked him about jihad, and she said, if jihad is the greatest deed, then shouldn't we participate in it? And he said that hajj is jihad for the women, essentially, was what his statement is, and I'm paraphrasing. That kind of reminds me of what Sheikh says about, hajj being a lot of shouting and spilling blood. And there's somebody actually in their introductions who said, some people are making it sound like we're going into battle. It's not that deep. It's not that serious. But really, when you look, these are statements from the Prophet ﷺ, comparing it to jihad and talking about shouting and spilling blood. Obviously, we're talking about animal blood, sacrificial animals. But it is, in a way, it is kind of like preparing for battle. And so it is helpful to talk about medications and to talk about more practical things. But I think in terms of like preparing yourself mentally, that's another aspect of it. So despite all those challenges that we have to go through, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still made it mandatory for us to do. He could have, said that this is something that's just for men, even though we have all these challenges that we have to go through. But the fact of the matter is that it is an obligation on men and women if they're able to do it. And so we need to equip ourselves for that. And I wanted to kind of focus on the practical ways, which we have been focusing a lot as a group as a whole, but the less tangible ways as well, preparing mentally and emotionally and kind of equipping yourself with that mental fortitude to get through the more challenging things that will inevitably come up, inshallah. So let's get the practical stuff out of the way. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to, I don't know if Nadir is on the call, but I felt a little inspired yesterday. I was going through his Instagram, and he has a whole like influencer vibe going on. I'm not checking the chat, by the way, so I'm sorry if anybody's posting on there. But I wanted to have a little what's in my bag moment, little influencer moment. So I brought my little bag that I take with me when I go for Umrah or Hajj. This is I didn't buy it. My sister-in-law gave it to me. I think it's from Uniqlo. I'm not endorsing any specific brands or anything like that, but what I find helpful about this bag is that it's really tiny. And then when you I feel like Mary Poppins when I start putting stuff in it, because it really does have a lot of space. So it's kind of this tiny little thing, but it's kind of wide as well and deep. And I'm surprised at how much I can actually fit in here. So as a lady, I think the guys will be carrying their own stuff, but as a lady, these are the things that I like to have in my bag. Number one, hotel key card. So they'll give us a key card or whatever that you'll keep in your bag. I don't want to keep a whole wallet with me. I like to keep things light. And I also have a little coin pouch that I got from Palestine that I keep my money in. Headphones is essential, like Sheikh mentioned on the packing list, because we will be tuning in at certain points and going on Telegram. So it's good to have your headphones with you. I like to have my power bank with me as well, with the cable that goes with it, so that if my phone dies, then I can charge it. And the battery does drain very quickly because the heat over there in Saudi. I personally like to keep a little Moleskine notebook because things are so hectic when we're over there. And I don't find it helpful to put everything on my phone. So I do like to have a little notebook with me. Sometimes I use this for dua lists, sometimes for more administrative stuff as a team, as a group, as a guide, excuse me. Anything, fiqh stuff, anything really. I like to have a little tiny compact notebook in my bag. Sunscreen, I have my Korean one for my face, and then I have these little, it kind of looks like a mini deodorant stick because I'm super pale and I get really badly sunburnt on my hands. So I like to have a separate one for my hands. Sunglasses. The thing about sunglasses is I don't always like to use them. I know some people would rather use like an umbrella to keep the sun out of your face, but I personally don't like carrying stuff in my hands. I'd rather be hands-free. So I will either carry the sunglasses or I'll have my little hat that I also don't want to have to be carrying. I can stuff it in here, but what I do is I make sure that I have a hat that I can just kind of like open up and do this so that I can attach the, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. I can attach the hat through the straps like this onto my bag. That way I'm hands-free and I'm not carrying extra stuff. Now, Sheikh mentioned having, what are these called? Like a shoe bag. So I have one of these that I fold up like this, and then I put it in, I'm dropping things. I put it in my little purse that I'm carrying so that when I'm walking into the haram, all I have is this one. But then I take off my shoes, I can pull this out, put my shoes in it, close it, and then I can put it like on my shoulder, or I can wear it as a backpack style or whatever. I prefer to do things that way rather than having a huge drawstring bag on my back at all times. Personally, my back gets sweaty if I'm wearing something like as a backpack. In that kind of heat, it's just uncomfortable. So I'd rather have like, what are these called? You know what I mean? This over the shoulder kind of bags, and then keeping my shoe bag inside the smaller one. And then finally, having a little bit of ID. The thing is, when we get there, inshallah, we will be provided, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be exactly the same, but these are the Nusuk cards that they gave us last year. And it has your date of birth, it has an ID number, and then it has the phone number of Al Bayt services. And there's even a little QR code here at the bottom. If somebody scans this QR code, it gives them all of your information. These are mandatory to wear when you're over there during the days of Hajj, because there are a lot of people who try to perform the Hajj, I don't want to use the word illegally, but they don't have the right papers to do it. They do make everybody carry these around so that as you're passing through these kind of checkpoints that they set up, you can just kind of show your ID and they'll let you through. So in terms of ID, you don't need to be carrying your passport with you. You don't need to have anything else. You will have these cards that they'll give to you that you can wear around your neck. So that's what I keep, and that's pretty much everything. The hat, and then I end up with the hat and a small bag like this. And I find that helpful as a lady. Those are my, things that I might carry. I don't know if it's different for guys, but that's what I personally find helpful. If I had to say what my VIP items that I packed last year are, I have 3 favorites. Okay, so number 1 is this one. It's my little hangers, my travel hangers. I bought this, I think, from Target somewhere in the States. But basically it comes in a little baggie. You have a bunch of these. They fold up. If you want to use it for children's clothing, you can use it like this as a small one, but then it also extends into a larger one. It doesn't have that bar on the bottom, so you can't put your hijabs like that. When I'm over there, I just kind of put the hijabs over like this, and with my abaya. It sometimes means that the hijabs are kind of wrinkled, but honestly, when you're in ihram, nobody's looking at anybody's clothing as wrinkled or whatever. It's just the fact of the matter is you're going to be looking a little bit rough. so it's fine with me. So that's number one favorite product that I had, because when we were in Azizia, I didn't want to have to be thinking about hanging my clothes or ironing it, and we didn't have that many hangers there. So I had an extra 5 or 7 or whatever that come in this little bag, and I was able to hang my clothing on that. My next favorite thing was the plastic spray bottle that has a little fan attached that we bought, or actually Reem, who's here on the call, she gave me one of hers. That was so helpful in Mina when the AC was down. Spraying it myself, turning on that little fan, it helped a lot with the heat. And the third thing I don't have on me, but it was this, what it is called, it's labeled as I don't know if you can see that properly, nasal sanitizer. And it's basically a little, people who are medics here or nurses or whatever who work in the healthcare, they'll know better than I do what it is, but it's a little kind of like a vial, and you break it and you put it under someone's nose if they're feeling dizzy, and it helps wake them up, kind of like smelling salts or something like that. But I had one of these because my mom's a nurse. She told me to take some just in case. And one of the ladies was really struggling with the heat and some other, health issues. And she was passing out in the Mina tents. She was fainting. And we were spraying her with water, and that wasn't really helping. But having something like that I was able to put under her nose, it kind of woke her up a little bit. And I was doing it and I couldn't tell if it was helping or not. I said to her, I was saying out loud, kind of, I don't know if it's working. And she kind of snapped out of it and she was like, yes, it is helping, keep it there. So the reason I mentioned that is because we do have doctors on the team. There will be doctors joining us, as Hujjaj. And they do have tents in Mina, for example, for people who need medical attention. But in this particular case, she was passing out. We needed to put her on a wheelchair. We needed to push her over to the medical tent, and that takes time. So it's helpful to have these little things on you, just to kind of get you through that 10, 15, 30 minutes of time that it takes to actually get the medical attention. A few more practical points before I move on to the more mental, emotional aspect of things. So number one, I have a little list here. Number one, menstruation management. Sheikh and Dr. Abid have gone into more detail than any of us could have ever expected about medications and things like that. I will just reiterate the point that they've already made, that irregularities are inevitable. I think the word is hemodynamics. I really like that word. It was the first time I heard it last year, but Sheikh talks about how the heat over there, basically, and the stress and lack of sleep will affect you physiologically, and it will change things in your cycle. And that's important to keep in mind. Don't let yourself become distraught if some irregularities happen. We need to be prepared to deal with that. Whether it's with, the ladies who are choosing to take medication, they can choose to take even more medication with the advice of Dr. Abid. Or there are going to be some ladies who don't want to mess with their hormones and don't want to take any extra medication. Just be prepared that might happen to you. You might be thinking, I'm so regular, it never happens to me, I'll be fine. It's going to happen for a lot of ladies. So be ready for that. Practically speaking, what's going to happen is some ladies are going to, the unexpected is going to happen, and they are going to approach myself or other female guides or Dr. Abid or Sheikh. When this happens, I've found that there are a few different types of people. One type, will go to Sheikh and ask him, and he'll give an answer, and they'll accept it. Let's say that's the first type. They're just happy to, be told what they're told, or they'll come to me and I'll tell them something and they'll accept it. Great. There are other types who will come to Sheikh, ask him something, then come to me and ask me, and then go to Dr. Abid and ask him, and they just end up confusing themselves in the process. Or they might come to me first, and then I might give them an answer, and then they'll say, oh, but let me just go ask Sheikh just to be sure. Now, this was something I kind of had to address with Sheikh when we were over there, because Sheikh is already so overloaded with responsibilities And it's for that reason that he kind of makes sure that the team is equipped to answer certain frequently asked questions, and menstruation being one of them. So how can I say this? If Sheikh says that these are the female guides that you can approach with your fiqh questions to do with your period, and you come to myself or one of the other female guides and they give you an answer, that's one mental thing that you will have to kind of get over. This is not Sheikh Abu Isa. This is somebody else. And maybe I don't know her that well and I don't know what her qualifications are, but I'm going to accept that Sheikh has said that this person is qualified to answer these questions, or that if she isn't sure, that she will check with him or something like that. Basically, to avoid what sometimes happens when we're over there, which is that people end up asking the same question to 5 different guides, and it causes chaos or confusion or wastes people's time. So that's one thing, is that it's like Sheikh said, he spoke about leadership and the Islamic principles when it comes to leadership, and that we have this commandment, أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم. Or minkum, I'm not sure if I'm sorry, I'm not hafidh, so I don't know the full ayah. But basically that you obey Allah, you obey the messenger, and then you obey those who are in positions of authority. And the same applies in this kind of system, which is that Sheikh is the Amir, if you want to call it that. And what he says goes. And it's why we keep repeating this phrase, trust the process, because when he says something, you need to accept it. Now, Sheikh is very accommodating, and he knows that there are people who, might be from a different madhab, or, they have their teacher and they really don't want to stray from the opinion of their teacher. And so he'll be very accommodating, and he'll say, if you're Hanafi, or if you're this, or you're Shafi'i, or you're this, then I'll give you the opinion that you want from that. But actually, the way that it works Islamically is that you ask the person of knowledge and you accept it from them. And again, I won't go into too much detail because Sheikh has already spoken about this. But when it comes to menstruation specifically, I felt it was important to mention this topic because there are 2 ways, I think, that I've seen a lot of women kind of struggle with this, is that they'll get an answer and they won't be satisfied with it, and they'll want to ask 6 different people. Sometimes they'll even be texting their teacher from back home, and it just causes problems. Exactly, thumbs down. I didn't mean to do that. The other thing is accepting a fatwa. And so there are some cases where ladies, their cycle starts or they're on their period, and Sheikh gives a fatwa that they can do certain things that they wouldn't think that they could do. And they might, number one, not accept the fatwa at all, or have lots of doubt in their mind, or they might accept it, but then they get home and they're like, was my hajj accepted? So this is what I mean when I talk about kind of the mental and emotional aspect of things. It's difficult to say be prepared to deal with all that, because it's kind of like, when it comes to marriage and kids, people are advised and given lots of advice before they have marriage and before they have kids, and it's all nice in theory, but then when it actually happens, then you're like, whoa, it just ends up being a lot of cliches in your head, and you forget, and you need to be reminded, and that's fine because that's human nature. But I'm just mentioning these things to kind of prepare you mentally, if that's even possible, but that's something to keep in mind, that these are some scenarios that other women have faced, and it can be really difficult on some women. So I think just being aware of that ahead of time can help. So that's number 1, to do with menstruation management. Number 2, when it comes to clothing and ihram, a lot of women ask, I think you guys have had lots of discussion about what to wear. I don't know what has been happening on the ladies group chat, rest in peace to the ladies group chat. But personally, maybe the other guides will have other advice on what to pack and what kind of clothing to pack. Personally, I find that the really flowy, light material abayas are the best with a layer underneath, because the heat is so bad over there that you're going to be sweating through your clothing. And I personally would rather have, a cotton top and some cotton pants underneath, or sorry, trousers underneath, be soaked in sweat than my abaya being soaked in sweat. And what I'll do is I might even, go back to the hotel and change, if I have the time, into something else that I wear underneath, but the abaya stays the same on top. Some ladies were shopping around for wicking clothing, wicking, like sports kind of material that you might wear at the gym or when you're working out. Let me turn off reactions because that's really distracting. I personally don't think there's anything better than cotton. So I will wear cotton everything underneath, and I'll have my abaya, light flowy abaya on top, and that's what I've found has been best for me. Another point when it comes to clothing is compression socks. We have emphasized again and again, ladies should all be wearing compression socks. Dr. Abid has seen so many ladies that their legs just become super swollen. I don't know what the science is behind it, but it's something that the ladies really struggle with. And I saw it myself. We were, I think we were performing tawaf or sa'i or something last year, and one of the aunties, her feet were so swollen, we had to like get her on a wheelchair and pull her to the side, and she couldn't continue. I had to speak to the emergencies staff over there to try to help her. So that's really important. Get your compression socks. There are some like crazy good quality medical grade ones out there. I've received a few from my mom that are covered by insurance sometimes, so you can look into that. But compression socks are very important to have for the ladies. We can't emphasize enough how important they are. The last point I will mention when it comes to clothing and ihram, a lot of the ladies ask about like covering their face. So some ladies wear niqab and others really feel like really paranoid about getting sick and they want to wear face masks. Sheikh, I'm not sure if he has touched on this yet in the videos. I still need to watch 3 or 4 of them, and they are new. Some people thought that these were recorded for last year, but no, these are new videos that he's recording. I will tell you that he is lenient when it comes to face masks if it's really going to be that difficult for you to get over mentally. But traditionally, you wouldn't cover your face in ihram. There are some, we have some narrations of women kind of doing something where, let's say, for example, where's my hat? I have a hat like this, and then I have a piece of cloth over like that. So it's not technically niqab, but it's like some kind of way to get around it. But, I'll let Sheikh talk about this, and I'm sure he'll cover it in the videos. He does mention that some ladies, what they can do is kind of take their hijab, and if they feel the need to cover their face, then they can just do this, like, so you're not wearing it, but you can cover your face if you need to, if the circumstances call for it. That's number 2, clothing and ihram guidelines. Number 3, I've written travel and accommodation considerations. Again, this whole point about having a mahram, this was one of the most frequently asked questions that we've received about, oh gosh, I've been talking for 30 minutes. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'll try to be more concise. But a lot of people are asking, can I join this group if I don't have my mahram? Yes, you can. Yes, Sheikh has spoken on this. But I'm just mentioning this point because obviously now everybody's on the team, on the group already. I'm mentioning this point to basically say that while this is an Islamically valid opinion that women can travel with a group without their direct, mahrams or family members, be prepared that you might be faced with comments or judgment from others who also have disagreement or don't believe in this opinion that women can travel with a group in that way without a mahram, and to not let comments like that affect you because it is a valid opinion. And again, to just trust in what Sheikh teaches and to trust in his authority. And it's not just Sheikh saying this. There are scholars of the past who have given that fatwa. So it's not like we're, picking and choosing and saying, oh, Sheikh Abu Isa said this. No, this is an established opinion that has existed for a long time. And to be confident in that and to be confident in what Sheikh teaches. A lot of the ladies ask about laundry services and shopping and things like that. These are things that we can talk about in the group chat. But I'll just say quickly here that there are laundry services available over there, that you'll find people handing out cards with phone numbers on them that you can call. And shopping, there's so many recommendations. Again, like I said, we can talk about this on the group chat, and I don't know if the other guys will touch on this, but this is something that's what the group chat is for, is to talk about these things. But my penultimate point is about general health and well-being. A lot of ladies are concerned that they might be pregnant, or they have concerns about whether or not they'll be able to do everything properly. And I can tell you that we had a lot of pregnant ladies on the group last year who absolutely smashed it, mashallah. They were like at times more energetic than the rest of us, and it is doable. There will be challenges, but there are things in place over there. I mean, we have wheelchairs there, and everybody's very willing to help. But I will tell you that the pregnant ladies that we had with us last year, mashallah, were excellent at, their energy levels and how involved they were in the group and everything. It was great. So I don't want to say, oh, it's going to be so easy for you. You'll definitely, be able to do it without any problems. But don't feel nervous. It's been done before, and it can be done again. And we're all there to support you, inshallah, if that is the case, that you're pregnant and you're worried. Everybody's going to be there to support you, inshallah. Now, when it comes to physical prep, I just want to emphasize again, we are less equipped than men. We're not as physically strong. So preparing physically now is very, very important. Please don't take it lightly. Like I've said, some of the ladies, their legs get super swollen. We had ladies passing out. I don't mean to fearmonger here, but it is very important that you focus a lot on your physical prep. I would say maybe even more so than the guys, because mashallah, a lot of the guys, are strong enough to withstand all the difficulty that they might go through during the Hajj. But us ladies, we need to make sure that we are physically prepared for that. And the team has already mentioned things about, managing or preventing dehydration or fatigue and things like that. So making sure you have your electrolytes. I found it really helpful to keep a little granola bar in my bag when I'm doing my Umrah or Sa'i, or even on the day of Hajj, to have some. They have glucose crackers over there and stuff like that. But I think Sheikh mentioned that in his packing list. But again, emphasis specifically for ladies to have that, because we are not as physically able as the men are to, go through some of these very difficult and physically demanding rights. So it's good to have that in your bag. And finally, like I mentioned, a lot of the toilets over there, unfortunately, don't have bins, or they don't have somewhere where you can dispose of your feminine hygiene products, if you want to call them that. So having a little plastic bag in your toiletry bag, or having a little plastic bag with you at all times, is helpful, so that if you are on your period and you need to dispose of something, then you can put it in that plastic bag and, wrap it up and put it away until you can get to an area that has a bin. So that's something to keep in mind. Unfortunately, a lot of Muslim countries and a lot of mosques' bathrooms don't have that for ladies, and that's something we don't want to be causing a flood in the toilets area of Minna and things like that. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, these are all kind of practical tips that I've tried to go through really quickly. The less tangible things that I want to mention, when I think about last year, and I think a lot of all the female guides agreed with me, is that it's very easy to talk about abaya shopping and this and that. But when we think about the challenges that people face on the ground over there, it is all mental and emotional. Whatever challenges you face, whether it's your body's breaking down, or something unexpected happened, or your bed in base camp is uncomfortable, or your roommate is a loud snorer, whatever it is, it's all in the mind. There are a lot of people who absolutely lose it when we're over there. They can't handle it. Now, this is the danger of talking so much about packing lists and preparing yourself physically. The intention is that we're doing all of these things to get us ready, so that when we're there, we're not thinking about how much our feet hurt, or we're not distracted by, the heat, because we have the spray bottles and we've walked a lot, so we're physically prepared and we can focus more on the things that are more important. But unfortunately, ironically, what ends up happening is you focus so much on the packing list and the physical prep and everything that you become too obsessed with comfort, and it distracts from the actual important bit, which is getting your mind right and being present spiritually and making dua with your whole heart and your whole chest, and being patient when things go wrong or somebody is getting on your nerves. And I am saying this to myself before everybody, I say it to everybody else. That is one of the most challenging things when it comes to Hajj, I think, is just not letting your emotions get the best of you. And I actually asked my mom, I told her today that I was doing a webinar and what advice she would give. And I'm looking forward to hearing from the other female guides what advice they would give to people who are going for Hajj. And it's very interesting that almost every time I ask someone this, it's always about mindset, patience, not losing sight of the forest for the trees, and just having that mental focus. So emotional regulation is a big one. I remember Sheikh Mohammed al-Sharif, when was it called Hajj Coach, Jiva? I think it was called Hajj Coach. When he used to teach people about preparing for Hajj, he, I think, shared something that is taught in like these anger management seminars, where if you imagine a circle that has all the things that bother you inside of it, in the weeks leading up to Hajj, let's say, I don't know, my brother gets on my nerves, and that's one thing that's inside this circle. In the weeks leading up to Hajj, if my brother gets on my nerves, I'm going to be patient and I'm going to do my best to ignore it. So that circle becomes smaller because now my brother getting on my nerves is no longer in the circle. Let's say the heat or snoring, somebody snoring beside me really gets on my nerves and it stresses me out. If I can get over it in the weeks leading up to Hajj, that circle gets smaller. And he was basically describing that the more you basically practice patience and not letting your emotions get the best of you, the smaller and smaller that circle gets, the more patient you'll be over there, inshallah. So patience with others, and even helping others around you emotionally regulate. You might be coming with family or you might have roommates and you'll see them struggling when we're over there. Please give this advice to other people if you feel like it would be well received. Sometimes it's about knowing when to say something and knowing when to, keep it shut. But sometimes some people just need, some emotional support. They'll feel better after a little rant. Some people need someone to say something, a reminder that, listen, this is what Hajj is all about, is being patient, and we've been prepared well in advance. So it could be working on yourself, but it also could be helping out others around you. One thing that ladies always struggle with every single year is leaving their kids behind. And I guess the cliche thing is to mention Hajar or the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, and the whole story with Ismail and how she had to run from Safa to Marwa. And you can take huge lessons from these stories. I say it's kind of a cliche, but it is very helpful to think about these things and to reflect on these things. That we're obviously here for something that's much bigger than our kids feeling sad or our families. We are leaving absolutely everything behind. And I know it can be very challenging for a lot of ladies, but again, lean on the other ladies in the group. You can vent to the other ladies in the group chat or in person while you're there. I'm not a mother myself, so I'm not the best person to speak on this, but maybe Reem can talk a little bit about that. But definitely, I think just reflecting on those stories of the story specifically of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, who had to not only leave his child behind, but then was told to actually slaughter his child for the sake of Allah. And then had to tell his son that. And the response from all of them is absolutely mind-blowing. just total acceptance, total submission. And you look at a story like that and you think, I'm leaving my kid behind for what, 2-3 weeks? And you just feel silly thinking about the comparison. So there is some benefit in reflecting on these stories, but I think that's one thing I just wanted to mention for those ladies who I noticed a lot of them every year mention this point, that it's so difficult to leave my babies, and I'm scared to call them because when I call them, then they start crying and I can't handle it emotionally and it's just too much. That's one thing to kind of ponder on, and like I said, seek support from the other ladies in the group. And just keep in mind that we're obviously here for bigger things, and it's not the end of the world, but it is very difficult emotionally, I think, for the mothers in our group. So may Allah make it easy. I'll let the other guides speak on managing expectations. And again, just keep in mind, like I said, that the Prophet ﷺ himself described Hajj as a jihad for women. And he also described it as shouting and spilling blood. And so this is not going to be the most glamorous trip you ever take on your life. It is going to be very challenging. And we're going to have 267, I think, ladies all in one place, which can be the most beautiful thing because it's not every day that you're in a setting like that with so many ladies. But it can also turn into a disaster very quickly because we're ladies of all different ages, all different backgrounds, different languages sometimes, and people can get on each other's nerves. Same thing can happen on the guy's side. We all know that men are the ones who have trouble controlling their emotions. No, just kidding. But basically, like I said, it can be a very beautiful thing if we make it that. And it can also become very, very stressful if we aren't patient with each other and we aren't mentally prepared to deal with the challenges. So keep that in mind, inshallah. Again, I mentioned the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. I think this was going to be the last thing I mentioned. I'm so sorry that I've talked for so long. I didn't expect it to take this long. But I mentioned Hajar radiallahu anh, Hajar, and she was her story is the basis of what the sa'i is. And Ibrahim alayhi salam, so much of his story is just baked into the Hajj. And this is something that has always, kind of weighed heavily on my mind. Like, we mention Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam so many times in a day, in every single prayer, several times. Why? And I actually said this to Sheikh last year when we were in Medina, I think. That's something that is always on my mind, and it makes me really happy when I see like Christians or Jews talking about Ibrahim alayhi salam in the same way. Like when I found a book that's entirely about Ibrahim alayhi salam. And I just love when people go that deep into his story, because I feel like we don't, as Muslims, a lot of us just recite our prayers and we don't think about the fact that we mention him in our prayers several times a day. And what is the significance of his story, and why Ibrahim alayhi salam? And I know Sheikh kind of said to me in response when I mentioned this to him, like, he said, Hajj is not so much about Ibrahim alayhi salam. As much as we see his story there and we see his, Maqam Ibrahim, and we have this tradition of slaughtering the animals and everything, so many of the rites of Hajj are actually pre-Islamic. Doing tawaf, this is something that existed before Islam. And so we don't give too much weight to these things. It's not about, the backstory. But it is in a way about the message. And the message, I think the most beautiful and the most impactful thing in the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam for me is how much he was willing to drop absolutely everything, his own family, and the mental clarity that he had, like even before, we have that story of how he looked at the stars and the moon and the sun, and he knew that that's not my Lord. And the ayah says, "Inni wajjahtu wajhi lilladhi fatara as-samawati wal ardi hanifa." That when he sees these things disappearing, he knows that's not my Lord, and and then he turns to Allah. And one of my teachers mentioned these lines of poetry about Ibrahim alayhi salam, that when he was in the desert and the sun goes down, there's absolute darkness, but that's when he was able to see, and that's when he could realize this is all about disconnecting from everything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and full submission. And that's basically our challenge as Hajjaj, is disconnecting from the fact that I've left my kids at home and it's hurting my heart to think about the fact that I have to be away from them for so long, or disconnecting from that feeling in our hearts that I came all this way and now I'm on my period and I can't perform these rites and my heart is breaking and I don't know how to handle it, and I feel like Allah hates me, or Allah, why is this happening to me? And these, nonsense statements that we sometimes might say to ourselves. Disconnecting from all of that, disconnecting from everything, and realizing everything that we do, no matter how much it might hurt us, is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Full submission and complete mental clarity and sabr. These are the kind of things that I take from the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And these are the things that I think a lot of ladies struggle to adopt when it comes to the challenges that we specifically have to face as ladies in Hajj. This is the most difficult part, I think. From what I've seen, the ones who struggle the most are the ones who have not spent enough time kind of reflecting on these things, that if Allah has written that I've traveled all this way and I've had to deal with this challenge, it's for a reason and it's good for me, and I know that I can handle it because He told me I can handle it. He has said Allah does not burden a soul more than it can bear. So those are the things I think that I want people to focus on now more than ever. Yes, keep walking and keep, getting the things on your packing list and getting your vaccinations and everything, but don't let these things distract you from that mental preparation and emotional preparation to deal with those things. I'm so sorry I talked for this long. I can't believe I talked for this long. We have Jiva, Abida, and Nazia is not here, but Reem is. Jiva, are you ready to take the mic and give your 2 cents about everything?
Assalamu alaikum. Let me just switch on my video. Let me know if you can hear me. My connection, I don't know if it's mine or yours. It's been a bit choppy. No. It could be me. It's always a problem here at home. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So with that has touched on a lot here, and alhamdulillah, I hope everyone's absorbing it in and really thinking about what she's actually telling you, because we can keep talking and everything once we get there is going to be so different. So I wanted to touch on just 4 quick points. Some of it coincides with what Widad has just been talking about, and not practical advice on my part. This is more about how we use this entire journey, which has already started, by the way, this entire journey to develop spiritually and personally. And so one of the things that Widad has mentioned quite often is about mothers and leaving kids behind. So Hajj is one of those unique opportunities, unique places, time, circumstance, where you can strip away all labels. And we've heard like the typical kind of like nice little reminder when people say, oh, when you're in ihram, you don't know who's a king and who's a pauper. But let's make that a little bit more personal. What Hajj does is it can strip away the label of you as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, a sister, a niece, an employee. And it's really your chance to reconnect with our core and most important identity, which of course is being a servant of Allah. And so what do we mean by that? I think to encourage you to think about your identity as a Muslim woman on this journey, think about who you are if you removed all those labels. If you're not a wife, if you're not a sister, if you're not a daughter, you remove all your expectations, all your roles. Who are you when you just stand in front of Allah? And so that's something that I want you guys to start thinking about. Use your journey to actually materialize those thoughts and reflect on who you're becoming. And how do you do that practically? For me, the Hajj it's so chaotic. There's so many elements to it. It can be really busy. And yet, even amidst like the largest crowd you've probably ever seen in your life in Tawaf, in that moment, there's an opportunity for you to kind of slow things down mentally, I mean, and really reflect on things beyond just the everyday, day-to-day doing. And that's what I'm really talking about here when it comes to your identity. And Hajj just provides that opportunity to really look beyond and beneath the noise of everyday life. And so I really hope that you guys, take that opportunity to do that. Now, my next point is, of course, the main topic that Widad says everyone talks about, and it's true. It's sabr. It's but what I don't want to just say like the typical stuff. Something that I've been thinking about and something I came across is, sure, we're asking you to be patient with the heat and the crowds and the discomfort that comes with this journey, but really think of it as part of your purification process. And often people think that having sabr is like to just have real good grit, like to be able to deal with the challenges. But actually, there's a part of patience that is surrendering. And there's a part of patience that involves your intuition and removing your ego. There's a part of patience that is softness and trusting the people around you. Maybe it could be the people that are in your room, trusting the process, as we keep saying, but trusting your guides, trusting the group that you're with, trusting the circumstances that you're in. All of that is a part of patience. And I think everyone needs to really start holding space for that right now in life, as Widad has said. And like using Hajj as this mirror of looking at yourself of okay, so frustration arises, something triggers you. What is Allah trying to show you about yourself in that moment? I think that's something to focus on. My third point is about honoring the emotional journey. So like Widad said, guys, these pills are going to mess you up on one level. So it's not even about the emotions we're going in anyway. The pills that you'll be taking to control your menses and stuff like those, they all have side effects and things. And so you're going to go through a bunch of emotions whilst you're there. I think it's again just embracing them. And I think my point is, don't see them as a weakness. Like, you can use these qualities as something of power. Especially in the moments where things are really uncertain. You're waiting for the bus and it hasn't turned up, and you're really having to trust when Sheikh is telling you that this is okay and this is good, when you're thinking, no, we need to be at the X place at X time. When things are really emotionally intense, just sit with those emotions, but see them not as a weakness, see them as something of power if you're able to kind of overcome them. And my fourth point is to use time wisely. And you might think, we're going for Hajj and it's 17 days. Of course, we're going to be on it. But actually, we're human. And actually, we get distracted, even in the best place on earth. And so I would say, those of you who have been before will know, but there's a lot of waiting time. You're waiting for a bus, you're waiting in the hotel lobby, you're in a queue, you're in a crowd. I would suggest alongside, you might have like your pocket Quran and things like that. But really using those moments for meaningful dua and using that silence that I was talking about before, like that, slowing things down to reflect on, where you're at, what you're doing, and how to make the most of this journey. I think those moments are actually what makes Hajj. You have your rituals, but it's actually where your mind is at throughout the entire journey. And so those were my 4 points. But Widad, you reminded me of something when you mentioned Sheikh Muhammad al-Sharif. And so I thought I'd share it here. So Widad talked about the circle. So I'm going to show you guys something, and I can't remember his lesson fully, but I think I got it. So I'm going to show you guys something. You guys can see that, right? So in the chat, I know the chat is talking about dua lists and stuff right now, but in the chat, I want you guys just to let me know, what do you see on this piece of paper? Like, just I'll just wait for the first comment or first few comments, but just let me know, what do you see on this piece of paper? A couple of people are typing. Okay, a dot. I'll just keep it up for people that are thinking. Okay, a dot, a black dot. Okay, great. You guys have got it, a black dot. So let's just suppose that this black dot is something negative in your journey. What you're all missing or not seeing right now, and you're going to be training yourself to do, is to see the hundreds, if not thousands, of white dots that are also on this page. Sorry, I think my camera's a bit blurry. But the lesson here is, yes, you're seeing the white dot. It's so the black dot. It's so prominent. It's so distinct. But you got to train yourself to see the thousands of the white dots. And like I said, let's suppose that this is something negative. What about the thousands of other positive things that are happening and that are there for you to observe and experience and see in this journey? And that's something that Sheikh Mohammed Sharif shared. So I'll leave you with that to think about. That's to train your mind to look for those positive things only for you, to make your experience better. I am not joining you guys on this journey. I am going to be your virtual guide. I'm definitely going to be feeling it sitting here at home, but I'm looking forward to like catching up with you guys on the 4th of May, and those of you who are coming, and inshallah on the chat, of course, up until the journey and even afterwards. Feel free to reach out on the chat or to us directly, as we've always been saying. With that, that's it from me. I think Nazia did join, she left. So Nazia is also one of our guides, but she's currently at Umrah right now. So inshallah, you guys will see her on the 4th as well.
Inshallah, jazakallah khair, Jiva. Nader noticed the white paper. Nader, mashallah, he's got it.
White paper with a hole in it. Yeah. That doesn't surprise me, inshallah.
That's half full kind of guy. Abida, are you ready to give your...
Yeah, I can. Inshallah. I'll put my camera on, I think, if it works. It has worked. Has that worked? I can't tell. So,
frozen, but I can hear you just fine. So
okay, that's fine. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I am Abida. I am located in Scotland, so I am your Scottish female guide, I suppose. It's been lovely listening to both Jiva and Widad, and I suppose what I am offering in the way of Tuppence is just talking about obviously the sabr concept and everything like that, but stepping it back a little bit from that would be to think about all of the process that happens that leads up to the preparation. And for me, I think just as the type of person that I am and my general personality, is that I think it's by no coincidence that Allah speaks often about this concept of Muslims being reflective, or encourages this process of reflection in the Quran. So this is something that we see repeatedly within the Quran, and then we have to ask ourselves, why does that happen? It's not just so that we can appreciate the signs of Allah and appreciate the message for those who aren't necessarily connected to Allah, but it's also in this process and this preparation for Hajj as well, that I believe that sitting with ourselves, reflecting and taking the time to understand who we are at this moment prior to going into Hajj would actually serve as a huge amount when we're faced with these sort of unexpected obstacles as well. So I guess with what Udad and Jiva have mentioned, that we will be faced with predicaments that we have no control over. But there's a constant within all of that, and the constant within that is ourselves. And I suppose the thing that we need to think about is, where's our baseline? And that's where Ramadan, alhamdulillah, is a nice sort of preparatory, sort of a 2 month prior to Hajj, kind of a starting point for us to sit with ourselves and start to realise that in Ramadan we are, as Jiva mentioned, kind of almost stripped away from our base desires, all of our base needs, that the day-to-day, the food, the water, intimacy, and all of these things. So they no longer exist in our day-to-day within Ramadan, and in a similar way, it then allows us just to sit with ourselves in that sort of, in our most sort of fundamental sort of aspects as well. So we get to know ourselves better in that sort of period of time. And so in the run up to Hajj, I think in order for us to be in a position to prepare better, actually knowing where I suppose that we all have them, isn't it? Like, we all have our faults. So knowing which parts of our personality we're trying to improve upon, which parts of our personality we see as being great strengths that we hold, because all of us will have really positive attributes that we bring along as well. And I think knowing ourselves better will serve as the best that we can going into that Hajj process, because, as again Widad mentioned, we will be faced with situations where, as insan, we're not supposed to get on with absolutely everybody, and we're not designed to fit every single dynamic perfectly as well. So part of this process is going to be able to appreciate how we're going to get through the struggle of not quite at being able to adapt with a particular group of friends or sisters that we find ourselves with, but understanding when we do find ourselves in those predicaments, what does it say about ourselves, or what are we learning about ourselves? How did we navigate that situation, and how did we pull ourselves out of that situation? And how did we encourage good within ourselves and within the group around us as well? So these are going to be all the sort of things that we kind of have to bear in mind as we find ourselves hitting sort of roadblocks along the way and seeing ourselves in situations that may not be what we envisaged happening within Hajj as well. Because oftentimes I think what tends to happen is that we may romanticise what these spiritual journeys are meant to look like, and what, you know, you assume Hajj is meant to be this revolutionary sort of, it'll be your game-changing sort of investment journey that you're going to put in, and you've saved it to happen at a particular time in your life, and you think it's going to change everything for you. But at the end of the day, like I said, that change really is something that is a process that happens within yourself, and there has to be been some level of investment within yourself in order for this process and this journey for it to serve you as well as what it should. So my advice, I suppose, is really about and like my dad was also saying, was the fact that at the moment we're also distracted in the physical preparations, as in the material preparations, like the stuff that we want to get, the steps that we're trying to pull in, and all of this is important. But how important will it be if we haven't really spent that time with knowing, you know, and what parts of ourselves we want to see improving, and what parts of ourselves that we hope to, you know, continue to grow upon as well. And I think that's where Sheikh's advice regarding the dua lists being a means of us actually sitting with that darkness within ourselves and actually reflecting upon those positive and negative things that have happened in our lives up until this moment that we want to secure Allah's forgiveness for, and the things that we recognise that we repeatedly maybe make mistakes with and stuff like that. So personally, I certainly know that these are the key things that are driving me in my preparation towards Hajj, as well as knowing that I can't control the heat. I can't control the fact that I do not know how my body's going to respond to this whole situation. So those are all things that I just have to sideline, and I just have to be prepared to accept that no matter what happens in that sense, it's been willed by Allah. And Allah knows me better than I know myself. And Allah wants better for me than I could want for myself. So no matter what predicament I find myself in, I know that if Allah has chosen that for me, there is going to be khair in it for me, no doubt. But the thing that I have to invest in is me, and how much of a self-reflective, self-improvement plan I put in place for this journey as well. So that would be my advice to you, short and sweet. I'm hoping to hopefully, inshallah, meet all of you sisters who are in the UK on the 4th of May as well. So I'll be travelling down to Manchester for that purpose. But also, I hope to, on the journey alongside you, be there to offer you support, be there to kind of hear out those emotional rants, because I quite enjoy that process actually. But, you know, if you are in need of anything, or if you need that support of any form, that alhamdulillah, if Allah can allow me to be a positive sort of player in your journey, I would be honoured and privileged to do so. And kept it very short and sweet, your dad, so I will be happily passing it back to you.
Thank you for that. Abida has been teaching Tropics and Gems, teaching us some important lessons, and also teaching us a lot of Glaswegian slang.
Yeah, you've all pretty much been feeling miserably at it, but we'll get there, inshallah. It's a learning process.
Finally, so since Nazia is not joining us, the last person we will inshallah hear from is Reem, who was my lovely roommate last year and was so helpful. She helped me so much when we were in Toronto airport and throughout the entire Hajj journey. Assalamu alaikum, Reem. We asked Reem to join us this year because she can provide something unique that us guides can't, which is she can, advise people based on her experience as a group member. She joined the group. She had to go through all the nusuk mess. Unlike us guides, she was there with the people. She saw what people kind of dealt with. And so we asked Reem to join and to kind of, weigh in on what advice she would give, as if, we're talking to a friend who's going for Hajj that we know. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who's going for Hajj? So looking forward to hearing what Reem has to say. What was your experience like and things like that. Jazakallah khair, Reem.
Thank you so much. I actually have two of my friends going, so I actually messaged one of them to ask what would you like to hear about it. So honestly, I didn't have anything much on the Nusuk experience, but now that you mentioned it, first of all, assalamu alaikum everyone. So happy for all of you. Inshallah, everything was great. Very exciting moment. I waited for 4 or 5 years to be able to go for Hajj. So when Allah invites you, He invites you, and you accept it. You're happy with it. I had a few points here that I have written down. Speaking of Nusuk experience, I think we've all experienced the ups and downs and how it goes, and how you just have to exercise patience and wait for, like I said, Allah invites you, you get to go, and you get through it, and then inshallah, when your Hajj starts, you kind of just forget about it. You're like, alhamdulillah, it happened. One funny thing, I remember I was walking through Mina, and there was this little, I don't know whether if you remember, there's a little Nusuk office, and then we just made a joke about them answering our queries there. But anyways, just a few.
Actually, one of the Hajjaj this year, I can't remember actually if it was in our Hajj group or in the Umrah group, or maybe last year's Hajj group. Somebody posted a picture of it, and they were like, "Is this a joke?" But yeah, I think it makes everybody laugh. Everybody who has to deal with Nusuk, when they see that, they're like, they just have to shake their head and laugh, I think.
Yeah.
It was funny. Anyways,
yeah. Okay, just a quick few practical things that I had. Again, I asked my friend, and she said maybe mention something like these. So Sister Wadat did mention the compression socks. I personally myself cannot wear compression socks. I tried it. I just couldn't. I had to return them. So I was hoping to find another solution and hope that my feet don't swell and whatnot. I did try these, the closed shoe Skechers. You just put your foot in and you can take it out. I had a pair of those. I had to volunteer for something, and I was walking around for like 6-7 hours. It was not a good experience for me because my feet did swell and they became tight, and it was very painful and I couldn't handle it. So, alhamdulillah, I went through that experience before going for Hajj. I myself had the lace shoes. They were like a thin mesh material, and the useful thing about that is it's a thinner shoe, so it's not like tight, and then you can loosen the lace. So, alhamdulillah, my feet didn't overswell to the point where I couldn't walk. They did swell slightly, but because my shoe was loose enough, it didn't seem to affect me. So I don't know if that would help anyone, but also I always had my socks and shoes on. I can't do sandals and slippers. So alhamdulillah, I didn't get any blisters. A lot of people did. I didn't check their shoes though. I don't know, but the socks and shoes really helped me with the swollen feet and with the blisters. And if any of you are not able to wear compression socks, maybe that will be helpful for you. Second one, I forgot about this, but that was reminded by my friend, was chafing. You sweat a lot, you're wearing your clothes, but it can be uncomfortable. So alhamdulillah, I thought about that before, and I actually got anti-chafing boxer briefs, which I wore, and that was very helpful. I didn't have to put Vaseline or anything at all, though I've heard Vaseline does help if needed. Yes, it's an extra layer of outfit, but you're gonna sweat regardless. So if that is helpful, maybe you can consider that. They were long enough that they covered my thighs, so I didn't chafe at all. There's a lot of walking, a lot of sweating that goes through. And if you forget your Vaseline, there's like Bin Dawood is loaded with Vaseline, so that shouldn't be a problem. Third one I had was, as mentioned before, hydration. Very, very important. I myself was very worried because I get migraines and the sun directly affects me. Even like right here, I know I see the sun, I'm going to drive, I'm going to get a headache. But it's very important that you have, so you can choose. If you prefer electrolytes, go for it. I was introduced to hydration pills. I don't like flavored water. I like my clear water. So these hydration pills were ridiculously useful. I didn't get one headache through the whole trip. I only got one on the plane too and on the way back. That's it. Not during the 3 weeks that I was there, alhamdulillah. So if hydration pills is something you'd like, they're just little pills. I didn't even know they existed, but I'm glad I found out. It was very, very helpful for me. And remember to start your electrolytes or pills, hydration pills, before the Hajj days, so your body is introduced to it. Not when you start feeling dehydrated, because that's not going to help. Next thing was make sure you have a proper flask for drinking. Like instead of having a bottle like this, which will heat up really fast, I had a flask which like I don't have on me right now, but it was very useful because I would put ice in it and water. It was slightly bigger than my water bottle, and when you're on your walks to anywhere, right, especially midday, it's really useful because it cools you off in ways that it feels really good. So make sure you have a nice bottle. Another tip that I don't think anyone would really need, but my husband really likes pop. He decided to put pop in his bottle that is a straw. Not a good idea if you guys like. I don't drink pop, but he loves it. And this, every time he'd open the spout, it was fizz. It just came out. So if you do want to have pop in your bottle, make sure it's a spout that doesn't have a straw in it, because it's gonna pour all over you, and it'll be sticky because it's pop. Here, other things, medications. Obviously when you're packing stuff, as Siwada touched on, essentials, those were really important. I forgot about the ID and this and that. Another one is make sure your important medications are on you. If there's something you really need to take, keep it with you. Don't keep it in like base camp, or in your luggage. Just keep it on you in case you need it at all times. And if you are carrying extras, keep them in your luggage. I did take extras. It can be useful for someone else. I was myself on the receiving end of medication and on the giving end. So it's nice when someone needs it and they give it to them and they're thankful. So like, okay, alhamdulillah. So do pack a few extra if you do have it, because I don't think they take up too much space in your luggage. Not in your personal backpack, but at least your luggage, right? Like those blister packs and Imodium or anything like that. I was able to help someone else out with that, and then I needed something as well, and I got helped. Alhamdulillah. Snacks also can be useful. In Mina itself, I found it, at least the tent that we were in, was plenty of snacks and food there. I didn't pack anything, and it was fine because, yes, it's not the healthiest snacks on the planet, but we're not really. I wasn't expecting a salad or anything, but it was just stuff, keeps you full, keeps you happy. You just say Bismillah and you like, just don't let any of these harmful things get into my system. But they have like the glucose cookies, dates, sandwiches, ice creams, and the cup of noodles and stuff like that. It's packed with snacks. Inshallah, it'll be even better this year for you guys. And granola bars and nuts it's good to just keep that in your backpack if you're ever walking somewhere and I don't have access to some place. It's good to just have it in your bag just in case you need it or someone else needs it, right? Because we're always trying to just look out for others around us and help however we can. Another point that I was asked to mention was in general washrooms. So the washroom situation, obviously, in your Medina and Makkah and base camp they're clean, they're good to go, no problem. The only issue would be, when you're sharing with roommates. So alhamdulillah, I didn't have any issues with it. Inshallah, none of you have issues with it. But just, talk to your roommates about it. If you got a schedule or routine, preference, just talk about it and make it so that, mentally you're prepared and it's not a problem. It's like the last thing you want to have an issue for is why in the washroom when I need the washroom. Because it's one washroom. It's going to be, I don't know how the rooms are this year, but generally it's 4 people to a room. So just embrace the situation and be happy with it. There might be some compromises and sacrifices that need to be made, but, inshallah, it should be good. Mina washrooms were fine. I know that in the previous years, maybe they haven't been, but I found it fine. It's how it is you're in your room with 267 women, I believe, and you kind of have to walk out. There's a lot of signs there. It's like a hallway, and there's a lot of signage. It doesn't even feel like a tent, to be honest. And you find your way to the washroom. It's a big washroom. A lot of people go there. And they have 2 types. They've got the washroom. There's a toilet with a shower up there as well. So if you really don't like your toilet, turn a shower on. It'll wash your toilet for you. And then there's another room where there's just a shower. The little tiny little shelf if you have something to put there. And I think there was a hook. But in general, I would suggest packing light when going to Mina. I personally like to do that. I didn't pack too much. Touching back on the washrooms. Mina washrooms, I think, were fine. For me, the hardest was Arafah washrooms. But at that point, you just say, you know what? It is what it is. I have to go. I can't be anywhere else. I'm just going to use it. So just accept the situation as it is. don't be too worried about it. Don't frazzle yourself about it, because you choose how you want to be at that point, and just deal with it. You're not at home, you're not in your comfort zone. It'll be fine, inshallah. You'll make it. Everyone makes it through. Muzdalifah, I didn't use the washrooms because we actually ended up there really late. But the person that did use it, she said it was better than Arafah washrooms. So lineups and stuff, I can't comment on the Muzdalifah. I've heard a lot of stories, but I didn't experience those, so I can't speak on that. And in general, just toiletries, I mentioned, right, just packing light. So for Mina, myself personally, I didn't need more than just the abaya that I was wearing. I didn't want to carry too much because remember, you're walking with a backpack. It's hot. You don't want to be carrying too much. But you're already walking, you're tired. Add more weight to yourself. You're going to be extra exhausted. Take a few undergarments. That would be useful to change. When you're showering, you can just go in and shower whenever. Your lip chap you would need. Just a few other essentials and things that Siwadad mentioned. And other than that, if you are the kind of person that needs time to get ready and do stuff, my personal experience, about 2-3 a.m. in Mina, the washrooms were pretty empty. If you want to go right before Fajr, it's going to be packed. But if you want to take your time, you want the room and the air and the space, just go a little earlier. Plan accordingly, right? Okay, and then the thing that was non-practicalist. Moving on to just a bit more of the mental and spiritual that everyone has spoken of. Very quick points here because everything was mostly mentioned. For du'as, make sure, again, we've heard this over and over again, make a detailed du'a list. But even if you can't do a detailed one, I would say just when you're surrounded with millions of people, it can be distracting. So for me, what really helped was, even if I had a guideline, certain du'a I wanted to make, I'd look at it and be like, oh yeah, this one. And then you just take your time and expand on it and go for it. Close your eyes to maybe drown out all the distractions around you, and just make that detailed dua based on that one point you made. Those points are really helpful because you will forget what du'as you want to make. And you don't want to stand there and be like, oh, what was it? And there's so much going on around you. You don't want to be caught in a moment like that. And then the point that was again mentioned was getting your period and off time. Myself, I experienced it. I had quite an experience, but alhamdulillah, I didn't freak out. I accepted it for what it was. Like Sister Wadad, Sister Riva, and Sister Sabila mentioned, just accept it. Just accept the situation. Allah has put you there. It was meant to happen. It happened. Just deal with the situation, and don't freak out. There's still a lot you can do if you're on your period. You make dua, and sometimes one thing that I found really helped was just, for example, when you're in Medina and you can't go into the masjid, you're not able to pray, you're sitting outside, just observing the situation around you, soaking it all in, and just remembering what this place was back when the Prophet walked from here, just picturing the environment back then. It really helped me calm myself down, and just soaking it all in really, really helped. And just accepting the situation. Again, accepting it is a big one. Just not being worried about, oh my God, what do I do? There are things you can do, and listen to your guides. They have good things to say, and it should really help. And one point that I don't know how the schedule works for you guys. Try to avoid making sa'i on a Friday. I did that. It can be quite an experience. I ended up making Umrah on Friday because, again, my that's how it worked out for me. It was very nice to do tawaf after Fajr, and then I had to go for a sa'i. It gets really packed really fast because, again, didn't click in my head. They make you hurry up. They don't let you spend too much time on each side. So you really have to try and avoid them somehow, but it's not possible because they don't stop. It's because they're making space for Friday prayer. And you find a good spot, you're lucky because it gets really packed really, really fast. And the exit is a stampede. Everyone's coming from all directions. I was, alhamdulillah, able to get out, but it was tough because it was midday. I was stuck in crowds, rolling around places, because people don't care. People will just go. Like, you're in one direction, people are coming from all directions. So I was spun around multiple times. Alhamdulillah, made it. read my shahada just in case, but alhamdulillah I made it through. And also make sure that you know the way to your hotel and don't try to take shortcuts because they don't work. In my head, I was like, oh, I know the clock tower, I'll just walk around it. There's no walking around the clock tower. Okay, I ended up somewhere else and I had to walk all the way back for 30 minutes. Just stick to your landmark, stick to your path, and get to your hotel. Don't try to go places you don't know, especially midday when your phone is dying, you don't have water, you're tired and exhausted. Don't do that. And just winding it down. Sorry, I think I forgot that I should have. In terms of expectations, keep your expectations low. This will help in lowering your chance of disappointment. You don't want to get disappointed. Keep your expectations low. Something great happens, alhamdulillah. If it doesn't, it was meant to be. Just deal with the situation. I think the rest was all mentioned. And just again, accepting this is not your comfort zone. This is not your house. You're meant to go through some challenges and sacrifices and compromises, and that's okay, right? We should, again, the mental preparation is huge. Just accepting these things is very, very important because it'll make your experience more pleasant. You don't want to come back from it and be like, oh, I wish I didn't do this. But prepare for it right now, and then inshallah it goes smoothly. And then I think my last point here is just on general patience. You will see and experience things that will baffle you. You're like, how is this person doing this? They're here, they're making tawaf. Why are they yelling at me? Why are they getting mad at me? It will happen. People will roll over your feet with wheelchairs and look at you and be like, whatever, and just keep rolling. And it will happen. And you just have to exercise lots of patience. But one thing for me that I think really grounded me was, for one, is just be silent and observe the situation around you and see what's happening. And the biggest one for me was to realize we were all invited here by Allah and we are all His guests. And who are we to judge others, right? Allah is testing us in a situation. He put everyone around us for a reason in a specific time, specific place. And just realizing we're all His guests. Allah invited us. How am I responding to this, right? Because our deeds are with us. People are doing things, that's on them. But if we get mad and we get upset or we respond to it negatively, it's still Allah's guests that we are talking about, right? Just like you were invited, they were invited. And we're all His guests, all special in our own ways. So, yeah, that for me grounded me a lot. With a lot of things that I experienced, with the millions of people around you from all over the place. And you accept that and you're like, okay, you know what? You just focus, do your own thing. Yeah, I think that's all that I have to say. I just trust the process, and may you guys have a great time, inshallah. I make dua for you, may it be accepted, and I'm so happy for all of you. Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khair, Reem. Actually, when you were talking, it reminded me of a few things because obviously we were roommates, so I remember you like going through certain things or coming back to the hotel room or the room in base camp, and like I think it helps a lot sometimes to just like laugh it off with your roommates when something happens. Because I remember that happening, like something would happen to you and you would come back and you'd be like, guys, listen to just what happened to me. And just being able to share that story with your roommates and laugh it off, I think sometimes can take off the pressure and help you to kind of deal with some of the more frustrating aspects. So that was a nice memory that you kind of triggered in my head. But yeah, also I think a lot of the times when we talk about women getting their periods when they're not expecting to get it, we forget about the timing of, doing your umrah, for example, or, there are certain acts of worship that you will sit out of because you're on your period, and then you'll have to do them on your own, maybe when you're clean or at a different time. And what ends up happening is then it's up to you when you go because you're not going with the group. So like Reem mentioned, there might be an option for you to do something on a Friday, and then you're kind of, that's going to come with its own challenges. Or she even mentioned like the bathrooms. Knowing the right timing to do things sometimes can be really helpful. Obviously, everybody's going to be trying to use the bathrooms before prayer times, like to do their wudu, or when they're about to go to sleep, or when they've woken up for Fajr. So timing, keeping timing in mind can be really helpful. I remember, do you need to go, Reem? Yeah. I also remember actually, she mentioned that some of the snacks that you have in Mina aren't always like the most healthy, for example. So I remember myself and my roommates, we went to go buy vegetables, and that was like a luxury that we were able to get in when we were in base camp at one of the nearby grocery stores. Yeah, there will be things that will frustrate you or might get on your nerves or might test your patience or you might struggle with. But again, just reminding yourself time and time again that I am leaving everything behind. You know, the men are not even bringing their clothes. They're putting two cloths with 2 white cloths on their backs. And we're leaving absolutely everything behind for Allah. And we're doing this for Allah. So no matter what frustrations you might deal with, and no matter what extra frustrations us women have to deal with, just remembering who you're there for and what you're there for will help to keep you focused, inshallah. I don't mean to make this all doom and gloom, and I don't mean to scare anybody. These are just realities that we've kind of noticed, and not everybody struggles that much, but a lot of people do, and it can get the best of you. And some people lose their tempers, or they just lose it in general. And I think people are faced with a lot of regret when they get back home. They're not thinking about, they're not thinking about the small things. They're just thinking about the fact that they might have lost their temper, or that they might have, messed up in a big way. So that is earnest and sincere advice from us female guides and female hujjaj who have been through it. Just some tips and tricks and things to keep in mind. The group chat is open. I believe Sheikh is wanting to keep it open for these next couple of days, inshallah. So if you have any questions, feel free to, I should say that we have the question and answer form. I don't know if Jiva or Abida can pull that up and repost it just so that people can see. If they can't, then I can later, inshallah, after I end the call. But you can submit your questions there. I don't know if anybody has any pressing questions now. After hearing everything that we've said, if something has come to mind, you're welcome to raise your hand to ask a question. I don't see any hands raised, so I'm assuming we're okay. It's all pretty okay. I spoke too soon. Let me unmute a few people, allow them to speak. So I think Rahima was the first person. Rahima, Mateen.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. How are you?
So, just a simple question.
Sure.
Everyone keeps talking about the compression socks. How many pairs should we be bringing? Is it one a day? Will one do us the whole of the time? Do we wear it every day, or just Hajj days, or what's the advice behind that?
So personally, I can only speak for myself, but personally, I always wear compression socks when I go on any airplane. And so I'll usually only pack 2, one for the trip there, one for the trip back. But obviously, the advice that we're giving to everybody is that they should be wearing compression socks at all times, really. So I guess it depends on if you want to be dealing with laundry. You could just take 1 or 2 pairs, or maybe 3 or 4, and wash them and reuse them. The laundry situation is sometimes difficult to deal with. So I'll give you an example. In Azizia, in base camp, last year we were in a different building. We're going to be in a different building this year. But last year we had, I believe, 4 washing machines that 400 people were sharing. So you can imagine, people were doing shifts and taking turns, but it was not always, easily accessible.
Okay.
Like I said, there are laundry services. You will find them in town, and people advertising laundry services, and people might even post phone numbers in the group chat saying, oh, I just bumped into so-and-so and he gave me this business card, and you can call him if you want him to pick up your laundry. I personally found it easier to just have, we were there for 21 days last year, so I found it easier to just have as much clothing as possible so that I didn't have to think about laundry. And what I actually ended up doing is, when I arrived, I bought like 10 of the same abaya in different colors, and the shopkeeper was laughing at me, but I just couldn't be bothered to deal with laundry when I had so much stuff to do. So there are going to be some people who I think are going to be like me, who don't want to have to think about laundry, who will just take as much clothing as possible, including compression socks. But if you can't, or if you're okay with dealing with the headache of laundry and everything, then just taking a few and then washing them. Or you could even, if your roommates are okay with it, you could even just wash them by hand, maybe in the sink or in the bathtub, and hang them or dry them some other way. That's another option.
So is the advice have obviously your trainers, because the other lady mentioned socks and compression socks, or one or the other?
I was wearing compression socks only with my trainers.
Okay.
But it's up to personal preference, honestly. Whatever you'd like to do. I think the safest is to just have your compression socks. You could wear other socks if you want.
As well. Okay.
I don't see the need for that.
Would it be an idea to maybe try them out now, whilst you can?
I'm not a compression sock person as well. We sometimes have to do things we don't want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you could just take one or two pairs just in case you might need them. Or I don't know, if you're going to have other ladies with you, traveling with you, maybe you can ask them if they'd be okay with lending you a pair if you really need it. It's just good to have them just in case. Yeah.
No problems. Yeah, I normally just wear them on the flights, but I think it's a whole different kettle of fish coming up, isn't it?
And now that I think about it, I think on the days, like for example, when we were in Azizia, we weren't really, there were some days where we were mostly indoors for lessons and things like that. And so I didn't really, so I think there will be days that are a little more, you'll have a little more downtime and you can choose to just wear your regular socks, but it is good to have those compression socks on hand just in case,
Brilliant. Cool. Thank you very much.
No problem. I think Dilshad, I'm sorry guys, I've lost track of who I've unmuted, but Dilshad, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, sister. I think one of the questions is already answered. That was about the compression socks. But where do you get them in UK? Do you just get from like pharmacy, Boots, and etc.?
Oh, good question. Are they just
the normal travel socks? Is that what you mean, the compressions?
Compression socks, just online. I think most people are kind of Amazoning them or eBay, whatever your kind of online sites are that you go to.
Yeah.
You'll be able to find them at pharmacies as well as places like Boots.
Yeah.
Even places like Home Bargains and stuff, they have it in their medical section as well.
Oh, really?
But good quality ones, you might want to search online first.
Okay. Jazakallah. The other question about abaya and the material, I missed the beginning bit. I will catch up. But just a quick question. Is it advisable to get some cotton ones? Or what do you wear when you've been in Saudi when it's been really hot? Because I went there when it was February and it was pleasant, and this was just after the COVID opened, so there was hardly anybody there.
So I don't know if Jiva or Abida wants to chime in. For myself personally, I preferred not to wear cotton. Again, it's up to personal preference. For myself, I didn't want to wear cotton because I was wearing cotton underneath, and I know when you wear cotton with cotton, it can sometimes stick together, and then when you're walking, it's kind of sticking to your form. And I just am more comfortable in the light, flowy materials that don't stick to what I'm wearing underneath. But I don't know. I think would advise differently.
Yeah, I would say I think the key thing is that it's light material and it's easy, so you've got space. Basically, you don't want it to be, there are more like fashion level sort of abayas now as well, but go for something that is as loose fitting as possible. And obviously, I think what's going to matter more is maybe your under layer, whatever you're choosing to wear underneath. So I think cotton is definitely the way forward if you want it to be comfortable, and probably the potential of maybe that sweat drying off a little bit where there's opportunity as well. So that would probably be the thing to recommend.
That's good. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
I will say just one more thing about the compression socks. So my mom's a nurse, and I think our insurance covers, I don't know if it covers the full price or some of it, but basically the insurance covers it because of her profession. She doesn't have to pay full price for them, and she actually, I think, even gets the doctor to give her like a specific brand that's really good quality. So for those people who want to go kind of intense with it, you could just buy them online. You could check your pharmacies, but that's another route. If you have like a doctor or a nurse in your family or somebody who might need it for their job, and they have insurance to cover some of the cost, then you can ask them to kind of hook you up and you can pay them, or, that's another option to keep in mind. And I forgot to mention as well, so I have plantar fasciitis, and it means I really benefited from having insoles made at a podiatrist or like a foot doctor. I can't remember what the correct term is called, podiatrist or whatever, the foot doctor. They can give you like custom made insoles. So that's something that some of the ladies might want to look at as well. That could potentially help with the whole foot comfort issue.
I just wanted to add with that, if I
Yeah.
may, something that I never really thought about, but another friend of mine was guiding another group, and her advice for females, people often think they have this association, I guess, because the men's ihram towels are in white. Women often buy white abaya for their ihram. But she actually advised, I've never done this because I'm more like dark colors, but she advised against women wearing white, mainly because when you sweat, or sometimes it rains, or you do just get wet with Zamzam, you're trying to cool yourself down. You sometimes often bathe yourself in public because it's, just to cool yourself down, I mean. White isn't the most, it's not the best, because it can make the material translucent and very, modesty just goes out the window basically, because our clothing gets very see-through. So for women who are thinking about the ihram, I think there's this like cultural idea that there's a white garment that they should be wearing, a white hijab and stuff. Actually, I wouldn't advise that, especially with the temperatures being what we expect them to be and how much we do think we're going to be sweating in the water. That's not necessarily saying go for black and stuff and you're gonna overheat, but just be mindful of that, about the white garments, because they're usually a lot thinner.
Yeah, I was saying. Sorry, go ahead, Abida.
No, I was going to say, just on the topic of light garments, I remember there was some conversation in our sort of run up to the Hajj, was the issue of being in hijab and when we're in Mina and stuff like that. So just thinking about the fabric, particularly when we're in the tents and in Arafah and things like that, where, you wouldn't, obviously when you go to your hotel room, you can remove your hijab, you have a bit more space, but in that tent space, you're not maybe going to have that luxury so much. So think about the type of lightweight materials that you would want to wear with hijab wise, so that you'll be comfortable when you're in hijab, like pretty much all of the time during those days as well.
Yeah, I was saying to a friend of mine here in Windsor who's going with us, inshallah, that the heat over there, like last year, I felt like when I left, the hotel is obviously air conditioned, but when I would leave the hotel, you just feel this gust of warm air, and it feels like, I told her, it feels like there's a giant heater in the sky blowing hot air on you. So the heat is next level. And I found that I was just sweating buckets. Like, I felt it was very important for me to be wearing cotton underneath my abaya, cotton clothing that I could change, or if I went to the haram to pray and I came back to the hotel, I could change out of whatever I was drenched with underneath and put on a fresh pair. So for me, having the clothes underneath my abaya, having a lot of it, was more important to me than the abaya itself. As long as the abaya was flowy and kind of light, that was less important for me than what's underneath. That's something that I personally found, that I focused so much on abaya and hijab, and I didn't think so much about everything that went underneath. Luckily, there's lots of stores around. So there was even like an H&M, which I'm boycotting at the moment, but they have clothing stores. You could go buy cheap clothing nearby. It's not the end of the world. But yeah, those are tips that I found helpful. There was something else I was going to say about light colors, but I think Jiva covered it pretty much. Is that's something you want to keep in mind, is that, white could be a problem because you're going to be drenched in sweat, or they have those nozzles that spray water on everybody to try to cool everyone down. So you might get wet, and then white might be an issue. So just keep that in mind, inshallah. Danish, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question, if you had a question. Danish Rafiq. If not, then Harim Ismail.
Assalamu alaikum. I just had a question about your the Uniqlo bag that you have. I've
Yeah.
been considering for Hajj, but looking at it, I was thinking everything else and a water bottle might not fit in it. I don't know how you've experienced that. And do you
Yeah.
use it for Mina, like the Hajj days mainly, or do you use it throughout?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that was my main question, really.
Okay. So I personally, they have so many, it's not good for the environment, but they have so many little tiny plastic water bottles, the kind that you drink and throw away. So many of those. And that's what I would do is the hotels that we're staying in are so close to the haram that you're just back and forth all day. And that's how you're getting so many steps in every day. So I would drink from those little plastic bottles, and I didn't care that much if it got kind of warm. So I wasn't carrying a flask because my personal preference is to carry less, to be hands-free, to just have this one little bag. And so I preferred to have just those little bottles in my bag. I would even reuse them sometimes because I did feel bad throwing away so much plastic. But yeah, it can fit all the things that you need and more. Like this has everything that I need, and it still has like a lot of space to dump stuff in here. So you could easily fit, like, let's say my mug is the size of one of those small bottles. You just like throw it in there, zip it up, and it's all, you're good.
But like
also,
that holds about 500 or 750 ml would probably.
That one you might struggle to fit in here with everything else. If you have your sunglass case and your power bank and everything, you might struggle to fit like a 500 ml, like something like bigger like this. You might struggle. But what you could do is sometimes those flasks with the little hook on it, you could just clip that onto, like I'll show you, the bag has this little buckle. You could clip it onto there or even around the handle. So that's another option. Or I've seen even some flasks or water bottles that have like a little pouch with a strap on it, so you could carry it like as a bag. I personally purchased I think it's meant for like alcohol, but it's a very narrow and thin kind of like flask that they typically drink alcohol out of. It was made with like tough plastic, and it was kind of like in a hiking section of Target that I went to. So I brought that with me thinking because it's so slim and narrow, I could put it in my little Uniqlo bag. But I honestly didn't end up using it because there's so many water bottles in the hotel room that you're given, so many Zemzem bottles. I prefer to be drinking Zemzem, and I didn't see the use of emptying a Zemzem bottle into a flask and then throwing it out. I might as well just drink directly from the Zemzem bottle. There are people outside sometimes just handing out bottles for free. So I personally, because I like to travel light and I don't like to carry so much stuff, I didn't have a flask with me at all. But I personally don't mind drinking water that's not ice cold. Like I was okay with drinking like lukewarm or even warm water. I was that thirsty that I just didn't care about temperature and I just needed to drink it. But if you do care a lot about having something that's really cold, then that's something you might consider is getting the ones that, with this, when it has like the screw lid, or it might have like a little thing on top with the hook, then you can just hook it onto your bag, and that's something that you could do. Adina asked in the chat, how about a compressible water bottle, like a silicone one? That's another option. But the only thing I would wonder then is if it's full of water, would I be able to fit that in my bag? Again, I would want something with a clip that I could clip onto the bag that I do have, so that if it is full and I can't fit it with all the rest of my stuff, then at least it's clipping onto this. So yeah, that's just me. But it's personal preference. If you're picky about the temperature of your water, you might want to take a flask with you. I personally was just drinking from the ones that you could find literally everywhere when you're there, inshallah. I hope that answers the question.
I'm guessing during the Hajj days you had like another bag as well, like a.
Oh yes, sorry, you mentioned Mina, so I'll show you. I actually brought it with me. So yeah, this is my like everyday. Oops, I'm dropping things. This is my everyday. Mecca, Medina, going to the Haram to pray the 5 daily prayers, walking to the Jamarat kind of thing. Like I'll have this little tiny bag with my hat attached here, and my little folded up shoe bag inside this. So that's my standard. When we go to Mina, what I did, so actually pulled up a picture of the backpacks that they provided us. When we arrive in Mina, there are these backpacks on each little mattress. I'll show you. They're Nusuk backpacks, which if anybody has OTP at TSD or whatever it's called, you might not want to use it. It does have the Nusuk logo on it, but there was like even cute little pink and burgundy and like lots of different colors to choose from. So I personally, I don't think I took a backpack with me when we went to Mina. What I did do is I had my little cloth tote bag, my Waterstones tote bag that I could, again, fold up. It doesn't take that much space when it's empty. I have this as extra in case I have so much stuff that I need to carry, but I don't have anywhere to put it. Then I have this tote bag that I can use. And then I also had this drawstring bag. This is the bag that Sheikh gives on his Umrah trips, but any drawstring bag works. I had like my my overnight stuff and my toiletries in this, along with my tote bag inside here. And then, yeah, I just found it helpful to have these kind of collapsible kind of bags because those big backpacks and stuff, I am the kind of person who I like to travel light. I get annoyed when I have too much stuff to carry. And like Reem said, we are walking quite a bit. So you have to remember that you might be having to carry that backpack on your back for quite a distance. So be comfortable. For some people, this is not comfortable because the straps are kind of narrow. It's going to put a lot of pressure on your shoulder. I would rather have a full-on backpack that has the padding and everything, so they might take something else. I personally like that this was kind of like collapsible and I could get rid of stuff that I don't need, and then I have less stuff in here, and it just felt better to me. So that's what I did. And I didn't end up taking that Nusuk backpack that they provided for us. I just didn't see the need to use it, but it is there for people who did want to use it. They could throw stuff in there and take it with them. It was there provided for everybody. I don't mean to hog the mic, Jiva and Abida. Feel free to jump in if you want to add anything. But that's what worked for me last year. Oh, so yeah, Rahima makes a good point. Using the hydration tablets with the plastic bottle. So those little plastic bottles didn't work for me because I had these Gatorade sachets for my electrolytes that I would use, and the guidance was that it's supposed to be used with 500 milliliters of water. So I did have, when I was drinking from my electrolytes, we don't support Nike. This was gifted to me. I feel like I'm promoting all these brands that I shouldn't be, but this was gifted to me by a friend of mine who's a personal trainer. I used this for my electrolytes. I would keep this in my hotel room. When I was going for a quick walk to the haram just to pray, I would take those little bottles, or I would just carry this in my hand. But this was mostly staying in my hotel room, or on the long walks that we would take, I would take it with me and either hold it in my hand, or again, I always have this shoe bag in my little Uniqlo bag. It's all folded up in there. So I could, even if my trainers were in here, I would sometimes throw my water bottle in here as well. I don't know if that's gross, but I just don't want to carry too much stuff. So that's what I was doing. I had this sometimes. Most of the time, if it was a quick pop out to the haram just to pray, it was those little water bottles. But for the longer walks and the longer journeys, I had this with me. It's just good to have a few different sized bags that are easy to fold up, because then you have options. Then you can take your small bag if you want. You can take your larger. Then I have a tote bag. If I really want it, I could use this. I could use my shoe bag. It's just good to have those options. Any other questions? I don't know if Danish had a question. Guys, if you had questions and you were trying to raise your hand, I don't see any raised right now. It might be that we're done. But just in case anybody else had any other questions, please raise your hand in the chat. Otherwise, we have that question and answer form in the chat that Abida posted. Jazakallah khair, Abida. You can submit your questions there. We will have another weekly check-in next weekend, inshallah. And yeah, the main message I think that I want to leave you all with, because the adhan is going, is just to remember that, again, we are leaving, we're leaving everything behind. Children, family, everything. Your makeup and whatever you're attached to, whatever you're used to, your regular routine, leaving it all behind. Give yourself the chance to just focus and disconnect from everything that's not Allah and what He has commanded. Again, that's the main lesson that I'm taking. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. That's the main lesson that I'm taking from the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, is just that complete La ilaha illallah. Sorry, the adhan's going. I'm in the masjid, so. I do speak Arabic. I am Algerian, so I speak Algerian Arabic. Sorry to the other Arabs. I know a lot of Arabs struggle to understand Darja. It is what it is. But I can get by. I can communicate with other Arabs. The problem is they sometimes can't understand me. Let me unmute Bushra. Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum, Bushra. Did you have a question? You can unmute yourself if you did. Okay, I don't think she had a question. Oh.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Never mind to speak Arabic because my English is not good.
No problem.
Yeah, so I'm so sorry for all my sisters. بارك الله فيك بنتي ما شاء الله عليك. أنا حاولت أفهم شوية شوية بس أتمنى يكون معايا عرب. في عرب معانا ولا لا؟
في نعم بس كما قلت أنا جزائرية يعني
عرفتك ما شاء الله. أنا مغربية الله يحفظك.
الله يبارك فيكي. والشيخ يتكلم العربية وعندنا
يتكلم عربي.
نعم عندنا عارف معنا هو يمني وغسان من فلسطين بس غسان مش عارفة.
حقا شكرا. أنا ملخبطة شوية ما عارفاش الفلاي باقي ما قالناش فلاي فوقاش نمشيو إن شاء الله.
إذا ما سمعتكش
باقي ما بعث لينا البروغرام يعني تنمشيو للمطار ان شاء الله والساعه وداك الشيء مازال.
كاين itinerary.
ما عرفتش وين. سامحينا سوري ناخذ الوقت للافهم.
No problem. I don't think we've shared it yet. I don't see it here on Telegram.
مازال.
Right in the back.
Sorry.
No problem. Oh sorry
اوكي ودادي لا احتاجيت شي سؤال نكتبه لك بالعربيه وتجاوبيني بعدين
ان شاء الله
الله يرضى عليك.
سميته itinerary رايحين نبعته ان شاء الله قبل ما نروحوا. you'll see all the ان شاء الله.
بارك الله فيك. صافي شكرا بنتي بارك الله فيك.
يبارك فيكي. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. I'm sorry to subject you all to my bad darja. But anyway, yes, what was I saying? So yes, just please, that's my parting advice to you all and to myself first and foremost, is to disconnect from everything, disconnect from your own emotions that might take over and might ruin things for you, disconnect from absolutely everything and just be there. Like we always say, we repeat over and over again, labbaik Allahumma labbaik. That's what we're saying. We're here. We've left everything behind. We're here, ya Allah. That's the main message that I kind of take from when I look at the stories of the prophets past, Ibrahim alayhi salam in particular, and the women that we have who narrate, dealing with things like getting their periods when the Hajj starts, and then they have to sit out, and it causes inconveniences, and it can cause stress. But just keeping in mind that we are there to obey Allah, and if obedience means that I miss out or I feel like I'm missing out, just managing that and not letting your emotions or your mind get the best of you, keeping it all in check with full focus and control and everything, inshallah. So we're making dua that everybody has a smooth process, inshallah. Again, like I said, the intention is not to scare anyone or to be very to be like negative Nancy's here. It's just to prepare you mentally and to help you, inshallah, in your preparations. We can sometimes forget that it's, we get lost in checklists and itineraries and things like that. But sometimes preparation is just sitting with yourself in the quiet and knowing how to navigate those more emotional, mental, less tangible kind of things. So barakallah feekum. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I'm sorry that I yapped for so long. I hope that you found some of this helpful. We will share the recording inshallah as soon as it's ready. Otherwise, like I said, if you have questions, you can submit them to the Q&A form. I am going to go pray Asr and try not to cringe because I hate being on camera and hate presenting these things, but I hope it was helpful for you guys. And I look forward to interacting with you all more in the chat, inshallah. Like I said, I think Sheikh is deciding to keep it open more these days because the team will have a little bit more time to interact with everyone, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.